we've started recording. I'm going to
Hello.
bring your audio up a little bit, I think.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Still a little quiet, but I'll bring you up a little bit more. Okay. Um, Hello, YouTube.
Hello there.
My name is Waldo. Um,
I'm Modular.
this is Modular. We're going to talk about the boring old man politics. It's not fun. It's not interesting. Everybody's going to hate it, I'm sure. It's my first stream ever, first video ever. So we're kind of making things up as we go.
Yep.
What news site do you want to go to use?
Just pick one.
Just pick one. Politico.
Sure.
Okay. I don't know. And we'll just see what's on the news. And then we'll argue about it. And then we'll talk about what we should do with the YouTube stream, stuff like that. We'll make some things up and we'll just kind of jump in face first.
Sure.
Oh yeah, that QAnon guy. Did you hear about this?
I did.
Attacked, went after Nancy, but only got her husband. Let's
Yeah,
see.
that's no bueno. It's
Yeah, I
pretty
know.
bad.
And just like I thought when it happened, immersed in 2020 election conspiracies.
Sure. I mean, you're gonna have crazy people everywhere.
I know, not a good idea, but do you think we're gonna have more election conspiracies once Trump gets back on Twitter?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, he hasn't stopped pushing it. Uh, there's always gonna be these people that grab onto an idea and they won't let go. So, yeah. I mean, he's definitely not representative, I don't think, of the majority of Republicans.
I agree he's not the majority. He's more than I'd like. He's a larger percentage than I'd like, but probably not majority.
Sure. Well, I mean, look, you got these people on both sides, right? I mean, a couple years ago, didn't we have a guy shoot up a congressional softball
Yeah,
game
he shot
who
up a
was a
softball game.
Sanders supporter
Hmm.
and took out, well, didn't kill anybody, but hurt a whole bunch of GOP people.
Hmm.
And then wasn't there somebody that broke into Rand Paul's home and beat him up
Oh, I
at
didn't
one
hear about
point?
Rand Paul.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't consider those people to be representative of people on the left, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, not fun.
yeah,
Tech
definitely condemn this dude
giants.
for going and attacking somebody. I hope that,
Private industry.
you
So
know,
so
Paul
powerful they could
Pelosi
still
ends up
handle the
being
Senate.
okay.
Okay. All right. What else? Oops. I closed it. What else we got? Mm, anything else pop up that you want to talk about? Or you got
Gosh.
a website? Since I know even the choice of a website is tricky. You know.
Oh yeah, for sure. You gotta dodge those partisan outlets, you know.
Oh God, did you watch the Fetterman debate? It was a nightmare.
No, I didn't. I didn't
Oh,
know there was a debate going on.
dude, for Senator of Pennsylvania, Fetterman argued against Dr. Oz. Fetterman had a stroke recently, and
Uh-oh.
he looked like a stroke victim up there.
That's not good.
It was painful to watch. And then he kissed ass toward fracking, and that irritated the shit out of me.
Hmm.
yeah, it was horribly painful. If you got some time, just look at the YouTube highlights, and like you will make a face and have to stop watching.
Is Fetterman supposed to be a Republican?
He's not. He is
Oh,
definitely a left on the left. Fetterman versus Dr. Oz, who's on the
Dr. Oz.
right.
Definitely sounds a lot like that one TV show.
Which TV show? The Dr. Oz TV show? He had
The
a TV show.
Dr. Oz TV show. Yeah.
Yeah, that's him.
That's him?
Literally, yes.
You're kidding me.
No, you haven't heard about
He's
this?
running for Senate?
Yes, he is.
I had no idea.
And it's
What
close.
the hell?
And it might get
Wow.
closer as Fetterman was up there stroking out on the. I mean, I'm being horribly terrible towards him right now, but he was literally up there talking like he'd had a stroke recently, and he did.
Well, I mean, it's to be
And
expected
yeah, and
because he did,
I'm
you know.
being ableist, I suppose. But
Do you think his support of fracking was a result of his stroke?
the no,
I will say that fracking may be, in some cases, a necessary evil for the time being.
yeah, but that was Oz's only answer to everything. Man, I watched the whole thing. Like, hey, what are you going to do about the minimum wage? Oz was like, yeah, we're gonna dig up oil and do more fracking. They're like, hey, what are you going to do about the economy? He's like, oh, we're going to dig up more oil and do more fracking. What do you think about inflation? Oh, we're going to dig up more oil and do more fracking. Uh, that was his
Whoa.
answer for everything. What do you want to do about the Middle East? Oh, we're going to dig up oil and do more fracking. Uh,
Well, that one could actually be a reasonable response there.
you want to watch 3 minutes of it?
Hey, come take a look at this.
What?
If you have a utility meter like this on the side of your house,
Oh, yeah,
we
you're
are
gonna
looking.
pay for that YouTube Red if you're going to be streaming, my man.
I know.
Can't be
I
playing
have
ads
money.
for your audience.
I'm running to serve Pennsylvania. He's running to
Or at least
use
get an ad
Pennsylvania.
blocker on
And
your
let's
phone.
also talk about the elephant in the room.
Block Plus.
I had a stroke. He's never let me forget that. And I might miss some words during this debate, mush two words together, but it knocked me down, but I'm going to keep coming back up.
I'm running for the U.S. Senate because Washington keeps getting it wrong with extreme positions.
I can't
John
see the screen,
Fetterman.
by the way, on Discord or
You
anything.
can't hear what's on the screen?
Nope.
Okay, well, then I probably have to fix that in OBS somehow. I don't know how.
Well, you're not streaming on Discord anymore.
That almost makes sense. Derp. I'm kind of dumb like that sometimes. And you can't see what's on my screen, can you? Because I'm not live streaming.
Exactly.
And I'm not calling
Yeah.
you. Ugh,
Yep.
I'm dumb as hell.
It's all right.
I'm dumb as hell. Yeah.
I will say that at least in terms of handling the Middle East, most of our issues arise with them from the fact that we need their oil.
Right. That's why we should take it and then abandon them.
Using our own kind of
I know
reasonable.
that's my heartless answer, but it's not a good answer.
I also don't think that we can escape the necessary evils of oil production in on our own soil, until we actually have a viable alternative in place and ready to go.
I
I don't-
agree with
like-
the sentiment, and I agree with the thing you said, but we need to prioritize getting off of it.
Sure. Yeah.
There's money to be made
but
from selling
there's-
it, so
There's you have to be able to sustain your production until we have an alternative. And sustaining production does mean that we continue to invest in development, right? So, like, you compare our energy problems that we're having right now. I mean, we're looking at gas and up in the $5 range. In some places, it hit 6 something here in California. And then you're looking at, we're draining our strategic petroleum reserve just to keep prices down. Where our natural gas is a little over twice what it normally is at the moment, but we have all the infrastructure to pump most of our own oil and get most of our natural gas ourselves. You look across the pond at Europe, and Europe has really crippled themselves pretty badly. They're highly reliant on external sources of energy at this point because they went full bore into the green energy stuff. They pretty much canceled a lot of their production for oil and natural gas, and they didn't have the appropriate infrastructure in place to handle the demand for energy. And now they're reliant on, Russian and Saudi and Turkish gas and oil and whatnot. It's not good.
Is it just bad management?
Oh yeah, it's very poor management. It's they took something that they saw as important. I get it. They saw the climate change thing as important, and they spent a lot of resources and time on reducing their emissions without having an appropriate plan in place to replace that energy with something renewable. And I mean, Germany's the biggest example for me because not only did they go ahead and go with the emission reductions plans that also reduces their energy output, then they went a further step and they've closed 3 of their nuclear power plants in the last year.
Yeah, it's a dumb idea. Nuclear.
It's ridiculous.
And is probably fine. I
Yeah.
mean, I know it fucks up, but if you set it up right and you update the damn things, they work.
Yeah, their Green Party is very adamantly against nuclear, which is why it happened.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just misguided at this point. Anybody that's really against nuclear energy doesn't know what they're talking about anymore. Maybe 50 years ago, back before we had all the safety in place and the technology wasn't where it is now, I could see the argument. But nowadays, it's just, if you're scared of nuclear, you're a boomer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how it is.
What do you think of
We
this?
can handle the waste.
Oh,
Exxon will post another record profit as oil prices remain high. Well, yeah, they produce oil, and their costs are relatively fixed, right?
No, they just raised prices. I mean,
No, their costs.
Their costs are fixed. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, their costs are relatively fixed, right? I mean, it's going to cost them between $35 and $45 to $50 per barrel of oil, depending on where they pump it from and the method by which they produce it, to produce a barrel of oil,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when oil is up at $90 a barrel for it's like $88 for WTI right now and 92 for Brent.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's up that high, of course they're gonna post some huge profits, right? I mean, they're making a 100% profit margin on a barrel of oil.
It doesn't have to be that high.
Well, what do you mean?
I mean, if they're making record profit and the prices are crazy high, is that not their doing?
No, it's not, because oil is a global market. So they're not the only producers of oil. OPEC produces oil. Russia produces oil. We produce oil. Canada produces oil. Mexico does. Lots of South American nations do. Brazil is a big producer. There are tons.
And those companies have chosen to sell it at this price.
Yeah, sure. If the market is saying, "Hey, we'll pay you $90 for a barrel of oil," then you're not going to go, "No, please, just give me 70." No, that's ridiculous. The company is.
They are in charge of how much to pay at the pump. So when someone in the poorer part of our country complains about a $6 gallon of gas, this is the fucking guy you need to talk to.
I have to disagree. I mean, look, they're not setting the market rate for a price of oil. They're just selling the oil on the market.
So the market does it?
And yeah, the market is what sets the price of oil. It's the supply and demand of oil for oil or energy. Right? And then, gas prices are also not fixed to a particular price. Gas prices are also gasoline is a separate commodity from oil. It's produced with oil, so the price of oil is going to go into gasoline prices.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to refine the oil in order to get that gasoline. Now, a refinery, you can only get so much gasoline out of a barrel of oil. You're only going to
I
get,
mean, that makes sense.
even
I
if you,
understand that.
yeah, even if you prioritize gasoline when you refine that barrel, you can only turn about somewhere between 50 and 60% of a barrel of oil is going to become gasoline because of the heaviness of that oil. So like there's different, materials in that oil, and some oil is heavier, like with sulfur in it and whatnot. Some of it's lighter. You're only going to get a certain amount of gasoline out of a barrel of oil. So if you say 2 barrels of oil is going to give you 1 barrel of gasoline, typically through the refinery process. And then the rest of that barrel is going to go to diesel. It's going to go to jet fuel. It's going to go to making plastics, that type of thing. Then once it's refined, now gasoline is its own product, right? And so if your demand for gasoline is exceeding the amount of gasoline that we're able to produce at the refineries, well, that's going to cause gasoline prices to go up as well. Because it's not just talking to Exxon and asking Exxon to
Lower
not
their
charge
record profits.
to lower their prices, right? It's also a matter of going to all the other refiners, some of them
all of
not United States providers. So what do you do about the guys that are outside the United States? Because Exxon and Chevron alone, they're exporting a lot of their production. So do you say that we should tell them they're not allowed to export anything that's produced on American soil? And then also, on top of that, if you're not allowed to export it, then are you also price capping?
Why does this seem like a scam to me? Record profits, record high prices.
Well, it's not. Okay, does it seem like a scam to you that when oil went negative and oil companies around the world lost billions and billions of dollars, that was record losses, but we didn't
What year was that?
bail them out. We didn't. That was 2020.
Okay.
Oil went to negative 40 a barrel, as in they had to pay other people to take the oil because it costed more.
Sounds more like market manipulation. This is the stuff I don't know about. It's the economy. I don't know that it. Yeah, that's my weak spot. The economy. You're gonna have to tell me about the economy, and I'm gonna have to tell you that it's not real.
Fair enough. But yeah.
But it seems like a scam to me. It seems like they're choosing to raise their prices so that they may make record profits.
So oil trades on contracts, right? That you can actually purchase oil several months in advance, even up to a year.
Done. Yeah, it's the basic stock market. You can buy corn before it's grown. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, futures contracts, right? In terms of oil, one futures contract for oil, is a contract to purchase 1,000 barrels of oil, or to sell 1,000 barrels of oil at a fixed price in the future, right? And so the futures curve is usually priced a little bit differently than your front month. So your front month is the oil that's being produced now, and then your futures could be 6 months from now, the oil that's going to be produced and sold then, right? For delivery on the date that the contract expires. And of course, these contracts change in value. So a lot of companies, they do what's called hedging, right, to try to protect themselves against downturns in the market. So they'll sell, like if you look at the futures curve for oil now, you'll probably see, and I'm not pulling it up right now, so I could be just totally off base with this, but you're probably going to see oil somewhere in the high 60s to low 70s 6 months out in terms of the futures contract. And then as that contract gets closer to expiration, if oil prices on the front month are still high, then as we approach 6 months from now, that becomes the front month. And that's going to be, if we're still looking at the same supply-demand curve here, the same dynamics on the supply-demand spectrum, then we'll see that those futures contract values are higher. However, if things turn around, for some reason people stop traveling again, there's maybe another wave of pandemic or something like that, and oil prices go way, way down, then the person that agreed to purchase that oil at 70 is still going to purchase it at 70 because they already purchased that contract,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's a matter of, okay, well, that oil is now under contract at 70, 6 months out. So that oil is spoken for. So whether the
Sure.
price of oil is at 90 or whether the price of oil is at 50, right? Exxon is still on the hook to sell that oil to that person at 70, assuming that Exxon engaged in that contract.
It's fine. I understand that. I can follow that. How is
Right.
this? So it still seems like
So the record profits are coming from not hedging, not selling from or futures contracts on their oil, which is a significant risk that they're taking. Because once again, you could see a shock in the demand side, right? So assuming that happens, I would be very much against bailing out oil companies that failed to appropriately hedge. Hedging does come at cost, but if you fail to appropriately hedge, that's on you, right?
okay.
So yeah, they're making record profits now. They made record losses in 2020. Most oil companies did. And it's just a matter of market dynamics. It's just how it works. They can make
I
record
think it
profits
works
now.
because that's how they want it to work.
I mean, a lot of companies went bankrupt back in 2020. A lot of oil companies did. And I think they should. I mean, that's something that if you don't appropriately position yourself. I believe Exxon took on about $20 billion in debt in 2020 because of their record losses there.
Okay.
And they're still paying it off. Even with the record profits now, Exxon's debt position is not where their targets were back in 2019.
Okay. I'm going to read up on it. It seems like black magic fuckery, but most of the economy does to me.
That's all it is. It's all smoke and mirrors and numbers anyway. But
I know, and I don't like it.
I mean, the Fed can just print money if
I know that's
if they so
more
choose.
black magic fuckery. But then what do I? But then, how's that a Democrat's fault? Why do not you, but more common Republicans? That's what we'll call them. Tell me,
Sure.
goddamn, Biden's driving up the price.
Well, that one's actually very simple. We have a few reasons for that. The primary one is because Biden is moving very much in the same direction as Europe on the emissions front, right? So he has, at least not him directly, but his administration.
This is all Biden's fault. Why
Effectively.
do conservatives think that this is all Biden's fault?
Sure. Yeah. So it's not his directly, but it's his administration. And it's not all his administration either. I mean, yes, there are market forces outside of his control. There's OPEC refusing to increase their production substantially to a degree that would lower prices. Of course, we have geopolitical issues going on with Russia. So we've essentially blacklisted Russia from selling their oil on the open market. Now they sell it through back channels to China and India. So in fairness, it's not all Biden's fault. Some of it can be attributed to the current administration, though. So you have, as I was saying before we cut off, we have a stance in the administration that's very against production of oil.
I think it's a stance against producing our oil.
Well, sorry, what?
It's against producing our oil from
Yeah,
America.
it's against producing our oil. So we're not renewing permits. We've put more restrictions on production itself. We've re-administered regulations that were wiped away during the Trump administration. We have denied offshore drilling permits. The thing about production in the United States and in general is when you open an oil well, the majority of your production for that well is going to happen in the first few years. It becomes progressively more difficult to extract oil from a well as the years of that well go by until it's completely dry. So you have to continue to open new wells. Well, if you make it more difficult and more expensive to open those wells, you're going to have problems.
And
on top of that,
that gets back to my assumption that it's the evil plan. I told you the evil plan. Eat everybody else's lunch before you eat yours.
Sure, I don't think that that's the case at all.
No, I think we're trying to take from all these other countries, from the Middle East and stuff like that, take all their oil, and then we can stop being friends with them. We are friends with Saudi Arabia just because they have the oil. As soon as they run out, we can abandon them. I think that's the... But you can't say that out loud. I just said it out loud and it ruins the plan, you know?
I think that it doesn't really work like that. What I do think is that the stance against the emissions is perhaps I'll say the plan could actually be to maintain higher gasoline and oil prices, because if they're higher, then it becomes more palatable to the average consumer to make the transition to an electric vehicle, for example. I mean, if you keep gas prices low, then there's no reason to make the switch.
You think that's the Democrats' plan, is to make it expensive forever so that we have to swap over?
Sure. I mean, if the primary argument against renewable energy is that it's not economically feasible, it's not cost, it doesn't make sense in terms of its cost. Well, then what if it becomes
feasible once gas is $100 a barrel?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well,
I mean, I feel like that's more reasonable than stealing everybody else's oil and then.
Probably. But then,
I mean, if
they figure out how to sell it for cheap, then it becomes more feasible. Well,
yes, but we're running into we have a problem of we need technology to get to that point first, right? So you have two options: you either make oil more expensive, or you make you improve your technology, and the technology improvement is happening, but it's not. I don't think happening at a pace that anyone's happy with,
because it's not necessary.
Because it's not necessary. Yeah, exactly. So
necessity is the mother of invention. So
well, there you go.
I've
higher
heard
prices.
That 100 times. But yeah, raise the
higher
prices.
prices of oil means maybe you get more innovation in the renewable space, right?
Okay, great. Okay, all right. Biden's saving the world. Great.
Sure, but at the cost of our immediate, our immediate economic productivity.
Oh well, yeah, it's expensive to save the world.
Sure. I mean, our emissions are definitely not anywhere close to, those of certain other nations, which we don't really have the control over. But
oh yeah, I know. But once but yeah, that would go away once they become more developed, they will get on the renewable train as well. Hopefully.
Oh, you would hope.
It's a plan.
Maybe.
Anyway, maybe. You want to watch this Fetterman debate?
Sure.
Okay. It's only 3 minutes long. Can you? All right. Let me know.
I have a little more to say about
okay,
the price of gas, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
The other thing is that we talked about oil and gas being. I hope you can't hear that. Something is going on above me.
I don't hear anything.
Okay, great. I think they're doing construction on the apartment above mine. Mm-hmm. So, the stance on climate change and against producing more commodities in the United States has had a knock-on effect now for a little over 2 or 3 decades at this point. So as I was describing earlier, oil and gas are actually 2 separate commodities. You just get one from the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
You through the refinery process. Well, we haven't opened a refinery in the United States in over 2 decades now. We just don't. And we're currently producing gasoline at upwards of 90% of our refinery capacity. So even if we were to pump more oil and get oil prices down, we also have the problem of we just don't have the refinery capacity right now to meet gasoline demand. So the price of gas would come down some if we were to cut the price of oil in half somehow, just magically overnight. But then all that does is reduce the input cost of the oil going to the refinery. It doesn't change the supply and demand dynamic on the consumer end between the refinery and the consumer for gasoline. So our prices would come down because the price of oil went down, but that would be as a result of the input costs coming down and refineries being willing to sell it at a lower price from that point. However, the supply-demand dynamic of gasoline wouldn't change very much because we're already operating at almost our maximum capacity. Now, the reason that refineries don't get opened is because they cost tens of billions of dollars to build one. And on top of that, it takes several years, upwards of 8 years to build a new refinery. And oil companies or refinery companies don't know whether or not they're even going to be allowed to make a profit on oil if they spend all these tens of billions of dollars and several years of investment to build a refinery, whether that's even feasible now. Right? I mean, if they spend 8 years and then, some Democrat in office comes through and goes, "Hey, by the way, we're capping the price of gasoline forever now. We're gonna any profits made on gasoline, we're taxing it because it needs to go to the climate fund." And yeah, so they just won't do it. They're not going to build new refineries in the United States anymore. There hasn't been one in almost 3 decades now that's been built. And it's straight up because they don't know what the political climate will be like 10 years from now when that refinery is built and ready to start producing.
We know what the actual climate, the weather climate's going to be, though.
Do we?
Yeah, we can look at this right here. We can watch Pakistan sink into the ocean right here. See that?
Well, yeah, but we've been watching Florida sink into the ocean for the last 30 years too. And it never happened.
Bad. We should not allow Florida to sink into the ocean.
I didn't say we were allowing it. I'm saying that the projections have been off this whole time. I feel like we have more time than has been projected and is being projected.
These people didn't have more time. I'm looking at this little transition right here. You seen this?
In Pakistan?
Yeah, see this guy? This guy doesn't have any more time. He's underwater.
Okay, and so is this a climate change floodwater related thing, or
Yes.
what happened here? What caused the water to be there?
It's too hot on the planet.
Yes,
no. That's simply it. That's all there is.
Hold on a second. That water, did that come from the sea levels rising?
Yes.
No way.
Historic flooding. A third of the country is underwater. You can see it from space. Why Pakistan is drowning. From United States Institute of Peace. I don't know who that is. 2 million acres.
A bunch of rain. It rained really hard.
Right. Which is part of climate change.
It's climate.
Yeah,
It's
and it's changing because of
it
the
it
amount
does
of carbon in
change.
the air.
Yes, climate changes.
And when we put too much carbon in the air, it changes.
Sure, we can have some effect on that. Yes,
Then we should not
mitigate it.
do that.
Sure, but look, it rained really hard in Pakistan and it flooded. Okay, I mean that is not the same as the climate predictions about sea levels rising and
This is
causing us
exactly
to
what they
lose
were
half our
predicting.
coastline.
This is
That is
exactly what they're predicting. They are expecting more
no,
disasters
no.
now. It's going to get worse.
So they say.
So they say, and so it seems.
Well, you can't just point to one thing and tell
It was
me
a
like,
big
look,
thing. This
here it
isn't
is.
like, hey, it rained a little
That's
bit too much. 2 million
that,
acres.
that literally is what it is. It rained
Right.
really fucking hard in Pakistan. It
It
usually doesn't do
happened.
that. They didn't have the
And
infrastructure to handle it. Like
and you're
that's
suggesting
it.
I'm over
Like
exaggerating. And I'm suggesting you're under exaggerating.
maybe. I mean, we haven't
You're
had a Katrina since 2004.
we still had we had giant ones on the East Coast. It wasn't didn't New York flood and New Jersey get wrecked a couple of years ago?
Aren't
And
those aren't those communities not used to having hurricanes? And
right,
is
they're
it
not
really
used to
wrecked?
having hurricanes because they didn't used to happen that big or that bad. They're getting worse.
Things. I mean, these things happen. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, they're not
because
used to having
why
hurricanes.
these things
I mean,
happen
I remember.
because there's too much carbon in the air.
No,
Yes, they happen
stop.
because of that.
You can't, you don't know that. They could have happened either way.
They could have happened other well,
Like, you don't know that the carbon was what caused that hurricane to happen. Like, no. The fact is that even if we didn't put more carbon into the air than there's supposed to be, there still could have been a hurricane that went through New York and New Jersey.
is that is it possible that a hurricane hit them if we didn't
Yes.
overfill the thing? Yes, but it's
Okay.
actually
So
worse.
you can't point
They
to
can.
a
Climate
one-off and
scientists
then
can.
say it's because
It's not a
climate change.
one-off. It's not a
No,
one-off.
it is.
Who was England? Heat wave.
Okay.
England heat wave 2022. United Kingdom heat waves. People died.
Okay.
Several heat waves across North America or Europe and North Africa. United Kingdom, 3 heat waves, 3 days in June. Record high weather. More grass fires, wildfires than average. August drought was declared in many regions.
Those things will happen during a heat wave, yes.
Yes, the heat wave happened
Uh-huh.
because there's too much carbon in the air.
Sure. And did the cold snap happen in Texas last year
Yes,
for the same
because there's
reason?
too much climate. There's too much carbon in the air. Yes, this is climate change.
I understand that the climate is that there is climate change, yes. What about it
But
though? I mean,
what about it? What do you mean? What about it? The climate is changing because of the choices we've made. The climate is changing
sure.
because of the carbon we pump into the air.
Yeah,
Stop pumping carbon into the air, or find a way to mitigate it.
yeah.
And there will be
Well,
less
we
carbon
could.
in the air. There will be less heat waves. There will be less cold snaps in Texas. And that means you don't open any new refineries.
What? No,
Yes.
you can do both of these things at the same time.
No,
You can
can't.
continue. You can move towards renewables without crippling your economy,
You can move
without
towards
making your gas
renewables, yes,
prices
but you can't
$7.
open a new refinery and burn more fossil fuels while putting less fossil fuels into the air. You can't do both.
Well,
If you want to
yeah, you
reduce the
can.
amount of carbon in the air, you have to stop using so many fossil fuels.
Well, you can do both. You can
No,
open a new refinery. You can produce more gasoline for people to use that they need now.
that's an increase.
Sure. But at the same time, you can invest in renewables. You can move to nuclear power plants. You can
It's
invest in putting more solar fields around.
it's
You
too late
can
for this guy.
reforest. What?
It's too late for this guy. Look at him. He's here. He's living his good life. Now he's underwater. It's too late for him.
Okay,
We need to move
that still
faster.
could have
We need to move
happened.
better.
that still could have happened without climate change.
Well, when it's Florida underwater and it matters to Americans, it'll be too late. And then they'll say, why, oh why did we build that last refinery 2 years ago? All it did was pump more into
Ridiculous.
the air.
We wouldn't be saying
How
that.
am I being ridiculous?
No, it wouldn't be why, oh why did we build that refinery 2 years ago?
Yeah,
It would be more along the lines of why, oh why didn't we transition? Why didn't we invest more into renewables when we could? Which we
Right,
should invest more in
because
renewables.
it's cheaper to do oil. Climatologists say the extreme heat was due to climate change.
Okay, well then, so are you in favor or against the price of oil and gas being high?
I know it's going to be high. I expect it to be high. And if the
Do you
Democrats
want
were
it to be?
smart, they would say, of course it's going to be high. Hey, everybody, next year it's going to be high because we have to get off of fossil fuels and we have to do our renewables. And then they put together a plan and they build a bunch of jobs around making these damn things. But
Okay,
Democrats suck
so
at talking
well then, why?
and messaging.
What was the point of the question in the first place then? Why?
What's the
How
point
is
of
it
the question?
Biden's fault that it's high? Then shouldn't your argument be,
Why
yeah,
does Biden suck at speaking English? Why do Democrats
shouldn't your
suck at
argument be,
messaging? Yeah,
yeah,
that's a different
shouldn't it be high?
discussion. It probably will be high. And it might be high, but I don't know if that. But the
I mean, I
greed
don't want it to
of
be
an
high.
oil
I would like
company,
to see.
if
I would
if
like
the
to see us.
if the price is high because it is more expensive to get the resource out of the ground, I understand. If the price is high because a corporation just wants to make a higher profit, I don't understand. Record
The
profits.
price has nothing to do with the oil company's profit. Well, it does, but
It
the price
does.
the oil company doesn't set that price.
They could.
The
Why wouldn't
oil
they?
is sold on a global market.
I know.
This is not a look. These oil companies are not running charities,
Oh
my man.
no, we can't.
You know,
We can't do anything about it. The market just says it's $90 a barrel.
well,
Sucks to be
okay.
you.
So what are they gonna?
It's a scam.
They can
They're
sell
working in
to other
collusion with
countries
each
at
other.
$90 a barrel too.
They're working in collusion with all of the other oil companies to make it $90 and $100 a barrel. They're working intentionally to make it so that they can make more profit.
Your problem is with OPEC. Then most
Yes, it
most
is.
oil producing companies aren't well. I say companies, but the majority of oil production isn't even done by private companies. It's done by countries that have nationalized their oil production, and they're the ones that are setting the price right now.
So that they can make more money. That's
Yeah,
also shitty of
yeah.
them.
So
Then
it's a
there's shits
geopolitical
too.
problem. But then you're telling private companies, which are not responsible for the majority of oil production, hey, how about you just, you don't sell oil at the prices that you could? It's not going to happen.
I agree that that's not going to happen.
Well,
And if if a private company is abusive, what do we do about it?
it's not abusive. You sell your product at market rate.
If fine, then I'll say that not the private company isn't being abusive. That's fine. If the market is being abusive, there's only one other choice, and that's for the government to step in.
Sure, if the market's being abusive, then you have a problem with, well, the market isn't just this nebulous thing. The market is made up of actors.
It is just a nebulous thing.
It's not. The market's made up of actors. You've got your consumers, you've got your producers, right? Now your producers, in this case, if your big beef is with the producers, well, you're gonna have to talk to them, and they.
Did I lose you again? So it's not the
Okay. Where did I cut off?
about the producers?
Yeah, your beef is with the producers. So you're talking about people like Saudi Arabia. You're talking about Brazil. You're talking about freaking all of OPEC, basically. You're talking about Russia.
Mm-hmm.
This is not an issue that should be taken out on the private producers that we have here in the United States. That's ridiculous.
Okay, then we need to abandon those producers. We need to come up with a better plan, keep the prices high, have an intelligent, smart, democratic type person say, hey, listen, the prices are going to be high, and we have a plan to get off of this toxic uh, substance that is causing climate change, causing all these bad actors to get paid, and do something else. But we have to pay for it. Sacrifice is necessary.
Sure.
But
You also have
Democrats can't say that because they're bad at speaking English, bad at messaging,
maybe.
bad at talking.
Now you mentioned the concept of our bad actors being paid, right?
Mm-hmm. Russia's a bad actor. Saudi Arabia's a bad actor.
You know how we could really cripple their economy?
By taking all their oil and then switching to a different currency. It's a long game,
Like
but
that wouldn't go so well.
we take all of their oil, we pay them in dollars, and then we swap to another currency, and then we trade that currency for 5 of their dollars that they have.
That's a terrible idea. We currently maintain the world's reserve currency. Now, I know you're joking. No, what we could do is we could produce more of our own.
The producing of ours will lead to more of this. More world
that's
underwater.
That's going to happen either way.
No, it's not.
Look, the producing
this
of
is
ours
not going to happen either way. This is
can
substantially worse because of climate change.
The production of ours can bring the price down, which thereby cripples the economic output of our bad actors. Russia is infinitely more wealthy when they can sell their oil and natural gas at ridiculous prices. Their economy is much more powerful. When oil is at $50 a barrel or $40 a barrel, Russia's GDP gets cut more than in half.
Mm-hmm. And then we burn all that oil.
Sure.
And turn it into carbon, which turns into flooding, which turns into Florida underwater.
We have alternatives to mitigate these things, right? I mean, we could be doing all kinds of things. We could go with carbon capture. We could go with reforestation.
Reforestation is a great idea. I wish we could plant more trees because they just suck all the carbon out of the air. But that has to be put on land, real estate. Real estate's expensive. Land is not easy to come by.
Sure.
Somebody could use that land for something better or more profitable than just growing trees and leaving them the fuck alone. There's very little profit in planting trees and leaving them the fuck alone. There's not much profit.
What I'm saying is, well, okay, but look, we have plenty of alternatives in terms of removing the carbon from the air without crippling our economy and also giving
I don't think we do.
Our adversaries a boost in their economic output.
And wouldn't one of those alternatives be don't open any new refineries?
No, because that drives the prices up, which means that our adversaries then have more leverage over other nations, and their economies are improved.
Okay, no. Your solutions lead to this flooding.
They don't have to.
They do have to.
No, because these things are not
when
mutually
it's cheap,
exclusive.
it will get used, and it will not if we lower the price. I'm on the side of high prices. So I think there are only 2 directions to go. One, oil will run out someday. Yes. Someday we will run out of oil.
Eventually.
Maybe it's a year from now. Maybe it's 1,000 years from now. It will run out. So we need to plan for that. Climate change is real.
Yes, I agree.
Climate change is real. The more carbon in the air, the worse the climate change. The worse the effects, the worse the heat waves, the worse the flooding, the worse the hurricanes. That's not a crazy thing to say. I mean, climatologists have been saying it for a very long time. It's going to be worse because of all the stuff in the air. So the only way to mitigate it is to make it necessary to move to alternatives. And the necessity will be created by high prices and or a lack of oil.
Okay. Well then, I mean, look, we just disagree. Is
know.
the fact. It's like
I'm
I'm on the side of lower prices, better economic output. You're on the side of higher prices for the long term. That's
and
fine.
less flooding. That's my side. Higher prices and less flooding.
I'm in favor of positive development and reinforcement for renewables.
I don't think
you are in favor of
I'm
negative reinforcement for our fossil fuels.
I'm suggesting that won't happen if it's cheap and easy to access.
Okay.
Yes, it's painful. I agree. Fine. I know it's painful. People have to pay to not die.
That's all I'm looking for, is someone to at least be consistent. You know, like, goddamn, how is it that, you know, you say the Democrats suck at talking, but come on, like,
they do.
Their actions and their words are not congruent with each other.
I kind of agree with that. I mean, look at Fetterman. Fetterman is like a super Democrat and super on the left, and he's voted against. Where did Fetterman go? He's voted against fracking, yet he sucks their dick during this debate. I love fracking. Fracking's great. I want more fracking. But he doesn't believe that. He doesn't.
I'm ready for it.
Okay, you want to watch this one?
Yeah,
okay.
But he's also trying to appeal to the Pennsylvania
He's trying to
state,
appeal to the Pennsylvania people.
It's madness. Do they have a lot of fracking in Pennsylvania? I'm not familiar with all of the
ridiculously
locations.
low. I mean, it is. They have it, but they don't need a shitload of people. If I understand correctly, there are very few people who actually work in that field, but you don't need many people. Does that make sense? Like, you need this many people to make this much profit in oil. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And natural gas. And even if Oz gets what he wants, they will double their fracking and oil workers to like 40,000. I mean, if Oz gets what he wants, they will create 20,000 jobs probably, and make $18 billion more. But
sounds good for the state of Pennsylvania.
It sounds good for the state of Pennsylvania, except what happens to all that stuff they drag out of the ground? It gets burned and turned into carbon in the air. Now we get more global warming. Now we get more climate change. Now Florida sinks.
You keep coming back to that.
Because everything comes back to that. Everything comes back to that. I mean, there's no way around it. There's no dodging it. Okay, we're gonna.
Who is watching tonight, to share your thoughts on social media, remember to use the hashtag PAC.
I'm running to serve Pennsylvania. He's running to use Pennsylvania. And let's also talk about the elephant in the room. I had a stroke. He's never let me forget that. And I might miss some words during this debate, mush two words together, but it knocked me down, but I'm going to keep coming back up.
I'm running for the U.S. Senate because Washington keeps getting it wrong with extreme positions. John Fetterman takes everything to an extreme, and those extreme positions hurt us all.
We'll continue on with a question, a follow-up question.
Interesting.
To you, Mr. Oz. This one is just for
What we have to do is ensure that we don't have increased inflation, and the best way to do that is reduce gas prices. John Fetterman has gone after the energy industry, called it a stain on Pennsylvania.
He has never met an oil company that he doesn't swipe right about.
There should not be involvement from the federal government in how states decide their abortion decisions. I want women, doctors, local political leaders letting the democracy that's always allowed our nation to thrive.
If you believe that the choice of your reproductive freedom belongs with Dr. Oz, then you have a choice. But if you believe that the choice for abortion belongs between you and your doctor, that's what I fight for.
Will you pledge tonight to release those records in the interest of transparency?
To me, for transparency is about showing up. I'm here today to have a debate. He keeps talking about Bernie Sanders. You know, 3 years ago, he was on his show and he hugged him and he said, "I love this guy." You know what? Why don't you pretend that you live in Vermont instead of Pennsylvania and run against Bernie Sanders?
Pennsylvania only trails Texas in terms of natural gas production.
I strongly support fracking, drilling, the piping of that natural gas.
I do support fracking. And I support fracking, and I stand and I do support fracking. I'm the only person on this stage right now that was successful about pushing back against gun violence and being the community more safe. You know, all he's done is just put a plan up on his website in the last 24 hours.
Part of the problem is that we have taken away the ability of police to do their job, and that's on John Fetterman. Because John Fetterman has taken such a harsh position against them. He's undermined them at every level. I would support Donald Trump if he decided to run for president.
All right.
But this is bigger than one candidate.
My campaign is all about fighting for anyone in Pennsylvania that ever got knocked down, that had to get back up again. You know, I'm also fighting for any forgotten community all across Pennsylvania.
Ask yourself this and others in your family. Are you unhappy with where America's headed? I am. And if you are as well,
we're both
then I'm the candidate for change.
First stream.
No, that's fine. They cut out the worst of his flopping around.
It looked like he was trying to say something against fracking, and then the strokeism kicked in.
He's gonna, and I hate the fact that he has to do that to try to get elected. It's madness. Like, he has to.
Well, one thing that I noticed is that
and that makes Democrats look two-faced. It really does.
They did mention that Pennsylvania was one of the primary, or was the second largest producer of natural gas in the United States. And
that's probably true.
Natural gas is clean.
Getting it out of the ground isn't.
Sure. Yeah, you need to use fracking to get it out of the ground.
Right, and that's bad. That's dangerous. That's harming the bedrock that's down there. We don't. I think it was an old report, but we don't actually know what's in the chemicals that they're pumping down there. That is.
It's supposed to just be water, as far as I'm aware.
It's proprietary information about what chemically is in that water.
Huh.
That was a report I read a long time ago. I mean, remember when they were setting their kitchen faucets on fire, all that stuff?
No.
You never saw that?
What?
I
No.
don't think it happens anymore. But this is very old YouTube. This is 2012. You never seen this?
No.
This is why everybody was angry.
I thought people were angry about fracking because
there you go.
No, they're angry
wow.
because there's gas coming out of the
4th of July.
It's like something out of a horror movie. Imagine turning on your kitchen faucet and the water pouring out catches fire. The video you're looking at is from a Pennsylvania family's home. So how could this happen in an ordinary kitchen? Well, there's one scary theory.
You see that, right?
Oh, yeah, I see
Okay.
it. So essentially what's happening there is, at least from what I would understand, is that the fracking process caused or didn't extract all of the oil and gas from wherever it was they were extracting it from. And then that water made its way along with the residue of oil and gas to the water supply.
Right.
What it sounds like.
Yeah, the fracking companies did the fracturing down there in the underground, and then it harmed their water. So that's why everybody got excited about fracking back in 2012.
Interesting.
I don't think that happens anymore because they're using more water, but it's still a possibility. And then the chemicals that they are pumping down in there to break the rocks and refill the gas, because you can't just leave it empty down there. They have to pump something in to push the gas out.
Right.
May not be good for the environment and may be bad for your groundwater.
That's fair.
And
I don't know enough to comment on that. I don't know enough about the actual fracking process.
So that was a big deal back then.
I do believe that nowadays we're using sand in addition to water.
Okay.
Like, so there might be something to do with that about our processes. But again, I only have some vague information on the way that this process works and the materials they use.
Right. And then
I wouldn't want to speak too confidently on it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how clean the natural gas is either. I mean, it's got to be at least some carbon, right?
Isn't natural gas supposed to be a clean source of energy?
It's cleaner than coal, I want to say. Wonder how. I don't trust any way to relatively clean. Relatively. It's doing a lot of work there. That word relatively there.
It's the cleanest of the fossil fuels. That's
Right.
what they say.
It's still a fossil fuel, so it's better than burning coal or petroleum. And then why scientists say natural gas won't avert climate. Half as much carbon than coal, and but that doesn't make it harmless. Again, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It does make it harmless.
Fair enough.
But
it's still going to be produced, though. It's mostly methane, isn't it?
Yeah, I think. Regardless, it's if there were a smart Democrat, there aren't that many of them, honestly, they would say, hey, listen, this is painful, this is difficult, I know that, it's expensive, I get that, but we're going to abandon the oil producing, these bad actors like Russia and Saudi Arabia. They will have no more power over our country if we invest and we move to a better long-term renewable solution. And in the meantime, I don't want to do fracking, honestly. I think it's bad. I don't know. I was thinking about saying in the meantime we do fracking, but then the fracking is still pumping things into the ground and it's still fracturing the bedrock and it's still harming the stuff that's underground.
Yes, exactly. In the meantime, we do fracturing. We do fracking. Like, straight up. Look, you don't have to cripple. We don't have to cripple ourselves in the meantime while we move towards renewables. I feel like these things are not mutually exclusive. Like, we can work on renewables. We can work on maybe some carbon capture programs even. We don't have to do that at the expense of our current economy. And we don't have to do that at the expense of allowing our adversaries to become ridiculously more powerful because of it. Because if we do this wrong, you understand, we put ourselves at the mercy of these other nations that don't move towards renewables and they don't harm their own production or their own production.
If we do it wrong, we drown.
There's a balance here. Okay, look, come on, you got to be a little more charitable than that. There's a balance.
If we do it wrong, we're underwater.
Okay, we do it wrong, we're underwater. Also, if we do it wrong, we're at the mercy of our adversaries.
If we do it wrong, then yes, those Russia and Saudi Arabia become more powerful.
Much like Europe may actually be saved by climate change this year.
Because it's going to be so warm?
Because it's going to be a little warmer in Europe than usual.
That's not good, because that's going to cause things later. It's going to cause a heat wave in the summer. It's going to cause torrential rain somewhere else. There's only so much water on the planet, and there's not like new water or old water. It's a cycle. And that water, because of the temperature, is showing up in the wrong places, in places that we don't want it. And then it's not showing up in other places. So the planet as a whole is like a closed system. It's a planet-sized system. But when all this water is here, I'm looking at Pakistan right now. When all this water is here in Pakistan, that means it's not somewhere else. Somebody else is getting a drought because of the water that's here in Pakistan.
yeah, I was making a little offhand comment
Okay. Yeah.
about Europe there, but the fact is that they have crippled their own production, which means they are reliant on their adversaries for gas and for oil, for energy. Right? There's a balance to be struck. There's, yes, we need to move towards renewables. No, we should not put ourselves at the mercy of other nations to do it. Europe went too far. Now, and as I was saying, the fact that
Bad
climate
management.
change is
Yeah.
occurring, it's going to be a little warmer in Europe this winter, is actually the only thing that's saving them from the fact that they are potentially going to be heavily reliant on Russian gas for the majority of the winter. The fact that it's actually going to be a warmer winter is in the short term a benefit to Europe. However,
Once summer
that
comes around, they're going to be.
that might not happen next year. It might be a colder winter next year, and they will still be at the mercy of their adversaries for energy, unless they make some serious turnarounds. But even then, I mean, assuming that they, let's say, move to nuclear, it takes years to build a nuclear power plant. You know, the situation that they've put themselves in is something that takes several years to get themselves into, and now it's going to take them several years to get out of it. And in the meantime, they're going to be hurting pretty badly. I don't want that for the United States.
Then what we would have to do is come up with a plan and stick to it.
That would be nice.
That would be nice, except somebody else is going to get elected next year and change that plan. Maybe.
Look, just vote for me. Just make me the
Just
president.
vote for you.
I'll handle business, okay?
And then somebody else, then I'll get elected after you and undo all the things you did.
No, you wouldn't.
I don't
You'd
know.
undo the reduction of restrictions on emissions, and then you'd increase the funding that I already put in place for nuclear and renewable technology and infrastructure building. Easy peasy.
And then Trump Jr. gets elected after me and undoes both.
Well, I mean, I feel like 16 years down the line, it'd be a little more difficult at that point to undo what we did.
Okay.
I mean, the money's already spent and the infrastructure's been built. What are you going to do? Blow it up?
Yeah. Yes. All right. So it's been an hour and a half.
Yep.
This is our first little thing. Today it's just a recording, but what I'm going to do is kind of edit it and then put it on the channel, and then probably I would rather do live stream because then I don't have to edit it and I can say that it's intentional.
Yeah.
So yeah, so next Saturday, what do you think? About the same time?
Works for me. Yeah.
And then we'll try and do a live stream. I might do a test for a live stream tomorrow morning, but just to make sure that the system works,
Yeah.
All right, cool.
It works. Let me know if you have a particular topic you want to talk about.
I